The story begins in the vast expanse of the Dragon Ball universe, where the Saiyan warrior Bardock, long thought to have perished in the destruction of planet Vegeta, has miraculously survived. Unbeknownst to the rest of the universe, Bardock was hurled through a temporal rift during his final confrontation with Frieza's supernova attack. Instead of meeting his end, he found himself stranded on a remote, desolate planet, far removed from the reach of time and space. This planet, shrouded in mystery and teeming with ancient energy, became Bardock's sanctuary and training ground. Over the course of a century, Bardock honed his skills, pushing his body and mind to their absolute limits. The once battle-hardened Saiyan warrior transformed into a being of unparalleled power, his strength surpassing even the legendary Super Saiyan form. His golden aura, a testament to his mastery of the Super Saiyan God transformation, radiated with an intensity that could rival the stars themselves. Meanwhile, in another corner of the universe, Frieza, the tyrannical overlord, had also undergone a transformation. After his humiliating defeat at the hands of Goku and Vegeta, Frieza had retreated to the shadows, plotting his revenge. Through years of grueling training and experimentation, Frieza unlocked a new form, Golden Frieza. This transformation granted him power far beyond his previous capabilities, and he vowed to reclaim his dominance over the universe. His first target was Earth, where he planned to exterminate the Saiyan race once and for all. However, unbeknownst to Frieza, Bardock had been observing his movements from afar, biding his time for the perfect moment to strike. The stage was set for an epic confrontation, one that would determine the fate of the universe. Bardock's motivations were clear: he sought to protect his descendants and ensure the survival of the Saiyan race. His century-long isolation had given him a newfound sense of purpose, and he was determined to make amends for the sins of his past. Frieza, on the other hand, was driven by his insatiable thirst for power and revenge. He saw Bardock as nothing more than a relic of a bygone era, a mere obstacle in his path to ultimate domination. The two warriors finally crossed paths on a barren asteroid, chosen as the battleground for their inevitable clash. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Bardock and Frieza faced each other, their auras flaring with immense energy. Bardock's golden hair and glowing red eyes contrasted sharply with Frieza's shimmering golden form, creating a visual spectacle that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The battle began with a deafening roar as Bardock launched himself at Frieza, his fist encased in a blazing aura of energy. Frieza countered with a swift kick, the impact sending shockwaves rippling through the asteroid. The sheer force of their attacks caused the ground beneath them to fracture, creating deep fissures that spread across the surface. Bardock's movements were fluid and precise, a testament to his century of relentless training. He unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one aimed with deadly accuracy. Frieza, however, was no slouch. His golden form granted him incredible speed and reflexes, allowing him to dodge and counter Bardock's attacks with ease. The two warriors clashed in a flurry of punches and kicks, their movements so fast that they appeared as blurs to the naked eye. The air around them sizzled with energy as their fists collided, creating shockwaves that reverberated through the void of space. As the battle intensified, Bardock tapped into the full extent of his power, his aura flaring brighter than ever before. He channeled his energy into a devastating Kamehameha wave, the sheer force of which caused the asteroid to tremble. Frieza responded with his own death beam, a concentrated blast of energy that sliced through the Kamehameha with surgical precision. The two attacks collided in a blinding explosion, the shockwave sending both warriors flying in opposite directions. Bardock quickly recovered, his body glowing with a radiant golden light as he transformed into his Super Saiyan God form. His power surged to unimaginable levels, and he charged at Frieza with renewed vigor. Frieza, realizing the gravity of the situation, unleashed his full power as well. His golden form shimmered with an otherworldly brilliance, and he met Bardock's charge head-on. The two warriors engaged in a brutal exchange of blows, each one more powerful than the last. Bardock's fists struck with the force of a supernova, while Frieza's kicks carried the weight of a collapsing star. The asteroid they fought on began to disintegrate under the sheer force of their battle, chunks of rock breaking away and floating into the void. Despite the overwhelming power of his opponent, Bardock refused to back down. He drew upon the energy of the planet he had trained on, channeling it into a final, devastating attack. His body glowed with a blinding light as he unleashed a massive energy sphere, the sheer size of which dwarfed the asteroid itself. Frieza, realizing the danger, attempted to counter with his own attack, but it was too late. The energy sphere engulfed him, the sheer force of the blast obliterating the asteroid and sending shockwaves rippling through the cosmos. As the dust settled, Bardock stood amidst the debris, his body battered but unbroken. He had emerged victorious, his power surpassing even that of Golden Frieza. However, he knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, and there were still many threats that needed to be dealt with. Bardock's journey was far from over, and he was determined to protect his descendants and ensure the survival of the Saiyan race, no matter the cost. The stage was set for an epic saga, one that would test the limits of Bardock's power and resolve. The battle against Frieza was just the beginning, and the true challenges lay ahead. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of energy blasts, shockwaves, and raw power as Bardock, now a warrior who had trained for over a century, stood face to face with Golden Frieza. The air crackled with tension, the ground beneath them shattered under the sheer weight of their auras. Bardock's transformation was unlike anything Frieza had ever seen. His body radiated a golden glow, but it was laced with streaks of crimson, a testament to his Saiyan heritage and the relentless training he had endured. Frieza, in his golden form, sneered, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You think a mere Saiyan, even one who's trained for 100 years, can stand against me? How quaint." Bardock's eyes narrowed, his fists clenched as he responded, "You've underestimated the Saiyan race for too long, Frieza. Today, I'll show you the true power of a warrior who's pushed past every limit." The battle began with a deafening clash as Bardock and Frieza lunged at each other, their fists colliding in a shockwave that tore through the landscape. Bardock's movements were precise, each strike calculated to exploit Frieza's weaknesses. He had spent decades honing his combat skills, studying every possible opponent, and Frieza was no exception. Frieza, however, was no slouch. His golden form granted him immense speed and power, and he countered Bardock's attacks with brutal efficiency. The two warriors exchanged blows at blinding speeds, their fists and energy blasts creating a dazzling display of light and destruction. Bardock's strategy was clear: he needed to wear Frieza down, to force him into making a mistake. But Frieza was relentless, his attacks growing more ferocious with each passing moment. As the fight raged on, Bardock began to push himself beyond his limits. His aura flared brighter, the crimson streaks in his golden glow intensifying as he tapped into the depths of his power. Frieza noticed the change and smirked. "Impressive, but it won't be enough," he shouted, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that rained down on Bardock. Bardock dodged and weaved through the onslaught, his movements fluid and precise. He countered with a powerful energy wave of his own, forcing Frieza to block. The impact sent Frieza skidding backward, his feet digging trenches into the ground. Bardock didn't let up, he charged forward, his fists glowing with energy as he delivered a series of devastating punches to Frieza's torso. Each strike landed with the force of a meteor, and Frieza grunted in pain, his golden form flickering momentarily. Frieza, realizing he was being pushed to his limits, decided to escalate the fight. His aura exploded outward, the ground around him disintegrating as he unleashed his full power. "You forced my hand, monkey," he growled, his voice dripping with malice. "Let's see how you handle this." Frieza's body began to glow even brighter, his energy surging to unprecedented levels. He launched himself at Bardock, his speed now almost impossible to track. Bardock barely had time to react as Frieza's fist connected with his face, sending him flying through the air. Bardock crashed into a mountain, the impact reducing it to rubble. But he wasn't done yet. With a roar, Bardock burst out of the debris, his aura now a swirling vortex of golden and crimson energy. He had tapped into a new level of power, one that even Frieza hadn't anticipated. The two warriors clashed again, their movements a blur as they traded blows at speeds that defied comprehension. Bardock's strategy shifted. He began to use the environment to his advantage, using the terrain to outmaneuver Frieza. He created afterimages to confuse his opponent, forcing Frieza to waste energy on attacks that hit nothing but air. Frieza, frustrated by Bardock's tactics, unleashed a massive energy blast that obliterated everything in its path. Bardock barely managed to dodge, the blast grazing his arm and leaving a searing burn. But he didn't falter. Instead, he used the opening to close the distance between them, delivering a powerful uppercut that sent Frieza soaring into the sky. Bardock followed, his movements a blur as he appeared above Frieza and brought his fists down in a devastating hammer strike. Frieza blocked, but the force of the impact sent him crashing back to the ground. Bardock landed beside him, his breathing heavy but his resolve unshaken. "You're strong, Frieza," he admitted, "but strength alone isn't enough to win this fight." Frieza snarled, his golden form flickering again as he struggled to maintain his power. "You think you've won?" he spat. "I'll show you true despair." Frieza's body began to glow with an ominous purple light, his energy surging to dangerous levels. He was preparing to unleash his ultimate attack, one that would obliterate everything in its path. Bardock knew he had to act fast. He closed his eyes, focusing all his energy into a single point. His aura flared brighter than ever, the crimson streaks in his golden glow now dominating his form. He was reaching a level of power he had never before achieved, a level that even Frieza couldn't match. When Bardock opened his eyes, they burned with an intensity that made Frieza hesitate. "This ends now," Bardock declared, his voice calm but filled with determination. He raised his hands, gathering energy into a massive sphere that crackled with raw power. Frieza, realizing the danger, unleashed his own attack, a massive beam of purple energy that tore through the air toward Bardock. The two attacks collided in a blinding explosion of light and energy, the shockwave rippling across the planet and beyond. Bardock poured every ounce of his strength into his attack, his body trembling from the strain. Frieza did the same, his golden form flickering wildly as he struggled to maintain his power. The two attacks were evenly matched, neither side willing to give an inch. But Bardock had one final trick up his sleeve. With a roar, he pushed past his limits once more, his aura exploding outward as he unleashed a burst of energy that overwhelmed Frieza's attack. The beam of purple energy was consumed by Bardock's golden sphere, which surged forward and engulfed Frieza in a blinding light. When the light faded, Frieza lay on the ground, his golden form gone, his body battered and broken. Bardock stood over him, his own form flickering as he struggled to maintain his power. "It's over, Frieza," he said, his voice filled with exhaustion but also triumph. Frieza glared up at him, his eyes filled with hatred. "This isn't the end," he spat, but his words were weak, his body unable to move. Bardock turned away, his mission complete. He had pushed past every limit, endured a century of training, and emerged victorious. But as he walked away, he knew that the fight for justice was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and there were still threats that needed to be dealt with. But for now, Bardock allowed himself a moment of peace, knowing that he had proven the strength of the Saiyan race and avenged his fallen comrades. The legend of Bardock, the Saiyan who defied fate, would live on. The final battle between Bardock and Golden Frieza was a cataclysmic clash that shook the very fabric of the universe. The once barren wasteland of planet Vegeta's ruins now glowed with the intensity of their energy, the ground cracking and crumbling beneath their feet as they exchanged blows at speeds that defied comprehension. Bardock, having trained for a century in the depths of the hyperbolic time chamber, had reached a level of power that even the gods would fear. His crimson aura blazed like a supernova, his muscles rippling with raw strength as he unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks that sent shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere. Frieza, now in his golden form, sneered with arrogance, his golden skin gleaming as he countered with equal ferocity, his energy blasts lighting up the sky like a storm of meteors. The battle was not just a test of strength but a clash of ideologies. Bardock fought not just for revenge but for the survival of his people and the future of the Saiyan race. Frieza, on the other hand, reveled in his dominance, his sadistic laughter echoing across the battlefield as he taunted Bardock. "You think a century of training makes you my equal? How quaint," Frieza sneered, his voice dripping with malice. He unleashed a devastating death beam, its golden light slicing through the air like a blade. Bardock dodged with a swift sidestep, his eyes narrowing as he channeled his energy into a massive Kamehameha wave. The blue energy surged forward, colliding with Frieza's beam in a blinding explosion that sent both warriors skidding backward. As the battle raged on, both fighters began to reach their limits. Frieza's golden form, though immensely powerful, was draining his stamina rapidly. Beads of sweat dripped down his forehead as he struggled to maintain his composure. Bardock, too, felt the strain of his transformation. His muscles ached, and his breathing grew labored, but he refused to give in. Memories of his fallen comrades, his family, and the countless scions slaughtered by Frieza's tyranny fueled his determination. With a roar that shook the heavens, Bardock unleashed a new technique, one he had perfected during his century of training, the Saiyan Spirit Bomb. Drawing energy from the surrounding stars and planets, he formed a massive sphere of pure, radiant energy. The light was so intense that even Frieza shielded his eyes, his sneer faltering for the first time. Frieza, realizing the gravity of the situation, summoned every ounce of his remaining power. His golden aura flared brighter than ever as he charged a supernova attack, the energy sphere in his hands growing larger and more volatile. The two warriors launched their attacks simultaneously, the Saiyan Spirit Bomb and the supernova colliding in a blinding explosion of light and sound. The shockwave from the impact tore through the planet, reducing what remained of Vegeta's surface to dust. For a moment, it seemed as though the entire universe held its breath. When the dust settled, both fighters stood battered and broken, their auras flickering like dying embers. Bardock's armor was shattered, his body covered in wounds, but his spirit remained unbroken. Frieza, too, was in dire straits, his golden form flickering as he struggled to maintain it. You're nothing but a low-class Saiyan," Frieza spat, his voice trembling with rage and exhaustion. Bardock smirked, his eyes blazing with defiance. And yet, this low-class Saiyan is about to end your reign of terror. With a final burst of energy, Bardock charged forward, his fist glowing with the last remnants of his power. Frieza, desperate and enraged, tried to counter, but his movements were sluggish, his energy nearly depleted. Bardock's fist connected with Frieza's chest, the impact resonating like a thunderclap. Frieza's eyes widened in shock as he felt his body being torn apart from within. "No. This can't be," he whispered, his voice barely audible. With a final, deafening explosion, Frieza's body disintegrated into nothingness, his reign of terror finally brought to an end. The aftermath of the battle was both triumphant and somber. Bardock stood amidst the ruins of his homeworld, his body trembling with exhaustion but his heart filled with a sense of closure. He had avenged his people, but the cost had been immense. The universe, however, would never be the same. News of Frieza's defeat spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the cosmos. The tyrant's empire crumbled, and the oppressed races he had subjugated began to rebuild their lives. The Saiyan race, once feared and reviled, began to earn a new reputation, one of resilience and heroism. Bardock's actions also had far-reaching consequences for the future. His century of training and his ultimate victory inspired a new generation of warriors, including his descendants. Goku and Vegeta, upon hearing of Bardock's triumph, felt a renewed sense of purpose. They trained harder than ever, determined to honor his legacy and protect the universe from future threats. The balance of power had shifted, and the dynamics of the universe were forever altered. As Bardock gazed at the stars, he felt a profound sense of peace. He had done what he set out to do, and though the road had been long and arduous, he knew it had been worth it. The universe was free, and the Saiyan race had a chance to rise again. With a final, weary smile, Bardock took to the skies, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The legend of Bardock, the Saiyan who defied fate and changed the course of history, would be told for generations to come. And in the hearts of those who fought for justice and freedom, his spirit would live on, a beacon of hope in a universe that had known too much darkness.